What's up? Welcome to the video. Now, what I do is help people see what they couldn't see before, the beliefs and patterns quietly shaping their choices and results. And so, in this video, I'm breaking down a real example of how a belief was blocking what someone wanted and how seeing it changed everything for them. Let's get right into it. All right, so in the session I had with Mike, right, the main issue wasn't confidence, motivation, or even his skill set, right? What he really was actually struggling with was putting himself out there, right? Especially around his work, money, and being seen without his protector part of him shutting down, right? And every time he moved towards offering his work, earning from it, or even being visible, he would hesitate and freeze, and then he'll pull back. And so on the surface, it looked like uncertainty, but underneath it, it was fear. Not fear of failure, but fear of being more so exposed. And so I have the session right here, and we're going to get right into it. All right. So, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go all the way into all the questions I asked him so we can get to this core belief. But there was a process of me asking questions so that we can really get to the core belief, right? And so the core belief we discovered that I uncovered with Mike, right? At the center of everything was this belief, right? If I'm not perfect or fully trustworthy, then I'm afraid. And if I'm afraid, I don't deserve connection, belonging, and recognition or money. So you see, so he made everything that he came into the session that he said was why he is not putting himself out there. He made that mean this: I'm not perfect or fully trustworthy, then I'm a fraud. And if I'm a fraud, I don't deserve connection, belonging, recognition, or money, right? And so this belief wasn't something Mike was consciously choosing, right? It had been unconsciously shaping his decision to not take action. This is what, when it's all said and done, when he was wanting to commit, right? He said, all right, today I'm going to start to put myself out there, right? Something in his body literally shut down and stopped him from doing what he needed to do to begin to get clients, or it was disbelief right here. All right, so let's go to the next one. All right, so number 2, the surface belief versus what was actually driving it, right? So what was driving what he came in with all this other stuff, right? But what was actually driving it, right? And so initially, Mike thought the issue was his skill set. And he was saying things about how he didn't feel like he knew what he needed to know to help people in his niche and stuff like that, right? And so he believed, I'm not ready. How many of y'all say that? I ain't ready yet, right? I don't think I can get someone a result. He was so fixated that, you know what, I don't think I can help this person, right? He did lack inadequacy with his skill set, but then he started saying, you know what, I need more experience before I offer this, right? Then he started saying, then I guess for me, it became clear that skill wasn't the real concern, right? So as we went through the process of helping him understand and asking questions, right, what was really driving the hesitation was the meaning he attached to being imperfect, right? And so for him, being imperfect meant being dishonest. Being seen while imperfect meant being exposed. Being exposed meant rejection or judgment. So in his mind, I don't have the experience. I don't think I'm ready yet, right? But the truth is, he made that mean, you know what? This means I'm dishonest, right? And I don't want to be exposed. People want to reject me and judge me and label me. They're going to label me. Look, he don't know what he's doing, right? This is what was driving his hesitation. So whenever he sat down and made up his mind he gonna do it, this a part of him just shut down him taking action. And it's because he was afraid of what he made it mean. You know what? They're gonna be exposed because I don't know everything. I don't know what I should know or what I think I should know. They're gonna think I don't know what I'm talking about. Stuff like that. How many of you guys deal with this, right? You feel like you're gonna be exposed, you're gonna be rejected and judged and labeled. Next one. All right, now, what this belief had been protecting him from. So now he has this belief. This belief is designed to protect him from what we will see here. Well, we already said it, but when we look at what the belief was doing for him, it made sense that this belief that he had about him being imperfect, right? It made sense that the belief was protecting Mike from being judged or labeled, feeling like a failure, being seen as manipulative or misleading, right? Disappointing people who might rely on him, and him re-experiencing shame of the original belief, right? And in that way, the belief functioned as a protective strategy, keeping him safe by keeping him from putting himself out there, right? So as we see, right, that this protective part of him steps in to keep him safe, right? Now this is the bind, right, that these beliefs keep you in. Because the bind is, in one sense, this part of you is sensing danger. And the meaning, you can say, the meaning that he subscribed to the environment, pretty much that for him meant, what? I want to be exposed, rejected, and labeled. And so this part of him has to shut it down so that he don't experience being exposed and experience all of that, right? And so on one end, it's keeping him safe in the sense of it's not exposing him. And then on the other hand, right, it's keeping him safe, but on the other hand, it's keeping him miserable. Why? Because what he really wants is to put his work out there. And so he's also suffering the feelings of not being where he wants to be financially, not getting the significance from his gifts and talents, right? He's also suffering in that way. So you see how this can put you in a bind and literally have you stressed out, depressed, right? Next one. All right, so we touched on a little bit of the cost of the protection, right? And the other one, but in this one, we want to speak about it a little more deeper. So the cost of that protection, right? That protecting strategy, protecting him, trying to keep him safe from feelings of being exposed, judged, rejected, right? But this is what is costing him. I want y'all to hear this, because maybe this is you, right? A lot of times people, when you are in this state, people start telling you, you're not disciplined enough, you're not doing this enough, right? And now they try to get you to bulldoze from your feelings. It's so hard. Certain people cannot do that, cannot just start putting action and disregard how they feel, right? And so what was protection solving? What was protection, you can say, costing him, right? And so I said, then we looked at the cost that same belief was costing him, right? So it was blocking his follow through, right? It was blocking whenever he was ready to do it. He got really hype. How we do? We tell everybody I'm not doing it, right? What happened? That part of him stepped in and it was protecting him. It was blocking his follow through. A sensation in his body In the session, it was in his stomach. He used to feel like anxiety, this deep pain in his stomach, right? Also, it's going to be, this belief is keeping money and opportunities away. He wanted to be financially stable. He wanted to build wealth, right, through his gifts and his talents. And so this is what protection is costing him, right? Also, the belief when it was feeding self-doubt whenever he imagined doing what he cared about. So whenever he had these imaginations, self-doubt came in, shame came in. Oh, I'm not ready, or I'm sorry, no, I'm not perfect. I'm saying I'm not ready, right? That self-doubt, you can't do it. You're not ready. They're gonna judge you. You don't know it all, right? Also, it was isolating him by reinforcing the idea that he had to be alone till he was ready. How many people start to isolate themselves from everybody, right? Also, it was making him mistrust his own intentions. He was thinking at one point, he was like, man, I don't know if I have the right motivation to be doing what I'm trying to do and helping people. It was the belief, right? And what that belief was protecting him from. It was, man, but the strategy is doing its job, right? But we'll get to that. But the belief was offering, right, safety, but at the cost of freedom to express, connect, and receive. So it's definitely costing him his financial freedom through his gifts and talents, his freedom to express his value and contribution to society. His ability to connect with others and receive money in exchange for value. And when that, damn, I'm not financially stable, right? And you living with your parents, that brings a whole nother dynamic. That's a whole nother thing that we'll talk about another time, because these beliefs overlap other beliefs. All right, let's go to the next one, y'all. Here is another angle to look at this. And so at first, it's not just about him. It's not just about the money, right? So I think I wrote here just so that I can outline this video. This became especially clear when we looked at money, right? Because it's not just about the money situation. It's about that money comes through people, right? And through trust, people trusting you, and that whole exchange, right? And being seen as valuable, right? And so the moment Mike moved towards earning, right, from his work, his gifts, right, his nervous system reacted as if he were in danger. He's thinking, they'll find out I'm not good enough, right? They'll reject me. It's safer to just stay where I'm at. Now, that's what he may be saying internally, right? But on the outside, he's probably like, you know what? He's probably just distracting himself. He say, oh, you know what? I'll do it tomorrow, right? But internally, in his body, he's really feeling these things. And so even when he felt excited to start something, his body would shut down his follow through to protect him from the shame of what? I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm inadequate. Let's go to the next one. Now, one of the biggest insight in the session was realizing that this fear wasn't based on something that had actually happened, right? Mike hadn't lied. He hadn't misrepresented himself. He hadn't even stepped into what he really wanted to do. The actual practice of putting himself out there, right? He didn't even do none of this, right? But his mind was reacting as if it already happened, right? And so whenever this part of him stepped in to protect him, it shut him down, right? It shut him down, but it also paints this picture of the fear, the exposure. Maybe it paints images of people saying things about him and him imagining the backlash, right? And so this is what the protector is doing through the actual belief is stored in the body, right? And so this is what it's doing. and it's shutting it down. As soon as he starts to take action, right? And again, like I said, it's replaying the old emotional template that we just talked about, right? And so now I wrote rather than responding to the present moment, but again, if he's unconscious, right, he's not aware of this part of himself, right? Now, most people will say, right, he should just start doing stuff, override what he's feeling in the moment. For some people, that's not the case. And for people that do, for the most part, and this is really subjective in the sense of the kind of person it is, let's say he do override his emotions, he will not be able to, if he doesn't deal or sit with this part of him that we're going to learn about, that if he don't sit with this, learn how to relate to this part of him that comes in and protects him, then I can guarantee his success will not last. He's going to spiral right back into shame and that same fear, right? And so the fear wasn't about deception. He was not deceiving anybody, right? It's his perception of his imperfection and what that means if he were to put himself out there, right? That's what it was. And again, about being mistaken for deception. That feeling of not being perfect, that he thought him putting himself out there and not being perfect would have people judge him, and which was really preventing him from actually stepping out there. All right. So now let's go to the next one. Now, to be real with you, now I put right here what shifted by the end of the session, but the truth is, like, this takes time. And throughout the session, it was like he was so disillusioned at what he really thought was stopping him not being disciplined, him not being man enough, and all this other stuff like that people was putting in his head, right? And further, him feeling more shameful for not sucking it up and just doing it, right? But for the most part, by the end of the session, Mike wasn't trying to force confidence, which is what I just said, just be confident, right? He wasn't doing all that, right? He was seeing something more accurate. Learning in public doesn't make you dishonest. This is one approach, right? Is within his body, not just the words, right? Which I'll get to that. Honesty doesn't require perfection. Value doesn't come from being fully ready. Imperfect sharing is often what builds trust within yourself and those you're serving. And so, from an intellectual standpoint, you could just say all this, right? That's not the belief. I want y'all to understand it. That's not the belief. The belief is the embodiment of what he made that mean and how his body reacted. So the shift that happened was more so of him sitting in understanding how this belief really affect his actions, and also relating to this protector strategy that shows up whenever he wants to commit and take action, and relating to his body and this part of him that's protecting him, and the actual emotions that's under that, the feelings of feeling exposed, the feelings of feeling rejected. These are the feelings, and these are the things that he has to sit with and relate to differently. And I want to say this, while doing these sessions, they can last for hours, right? Or you may have to come back because a lot of times the client is not really ready to go to the next step. And also, I would have to see if, just from their body language, are they really feeling how this belief has really, do they really feel this on a body level, right? Are they really understanding, feeling, and are they in a space to really want to go to the next step, which would be wanting to actually change this belief, wanting to actually sit with this part of themselves. And then there's another step to this. It's if the client is ready to go and sit with this to really figure out how this belief was formed in their childhood, which is another exercise within itself. And so from this point, but for the sake of this video, pretty much like he is doing good now, right? He's learning to put himself out there. He's learning to practice, you could say, in practicing, and a lot of other things that we went through. But this is just one part of the session, right? All right, so now you guys see this is just one example of how I helped someone and how they was able to see what was blocking them from taking action so that they can go get what they want. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to say this, man, just because you do this work, this is the beginning of it. And it's the daily sitting with these protective parts of yourself that protects you and relating to these parts of it differently, right? And so I want to thank you guys for sitting with this video. And again, listen, if you want to book a session, hit the link in the description box, right? First, we can just see what you need, whatever. So the first one would be a booking free discovery kind of thing to see what are your needs and stuff like that. So hit the link in the description box. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if this was useful and helpful. Thank you guys. Peace, y'all.